Welcome, everybody. We are so pleased that you are all here today. I'm Noreen Cooper-Hevlin from UUCC, and I have the distinct and wonderful privilege of being one of today's worship associates, along with Jane Thanks, here from UUCLC.
Good morning, I'm Jane Thanks. During the pandemic, UUCC and UUCLC helped each other by sharing production advice, guest speakers, recorded music, and they attended each other's services. Today, we celebrate that special bond with a shared Zoom service between our two congregations.
There's a reason we here at UUCC call UUCLC our sister congregation, and we want you all to know how happy we are that you have chosen to be with us this morning. Along with many other things we share, our two congregations also share a love and deep respect for today's guest minister speaker, Reverend Clovice Lewis.
Today, Reverend Clovice Lewis delivers a sermon entitled Finding Joy. He discusses how peace and joy are often commingled and often thought of as unattainable over a long period. Clovice will challenge this assumption and discuss how inner peace is the road upon which joy rides. Find peace and you will find joy, guaranteed, all the time.
After the service today, we invite you to stay on Zoom for deeper conversations about today's sermon topic in our breakout rooms. Our slideshow theme today reflects Clovice's dual themes of peace and joy. But first, a few announcements.
Next Sunday, October 23rd, Reverend Esther Wallace speaks in person at UUCLC. Her topic will be, You'll Never Walk or Move Alone, about how we show up for each other as a spiritual community.
And on November 6th, UUCC returns to Odd Fellows Hall to hear Ron Anen give a sermon entitled Embracing Grief and Joy in Remembrance. In this service, Ron encourages embracing not just the joyful memories, but the pain and sorrow of grief we endure when parting with loved ones. Ron asks us to bring a picture or memento of someone you know who has died in the last year, or someone whom you would like to remember in a special way in a remembrance ritual. More information can be found in the UUCC recent newsletter, including an upcoming Tea by the Sea next Sunday at 3:30 p.m. with a link in the chat. And now I will light our collective chalice flames. Carol, now please, Carol Maxwell from UUCLC will lead us in reading the chalice lighting words.
Now please join us in reading these words by George Kimmich Beach. In the mystery of life about us, there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together. It opens the pathways to love. In this place of friendship, there is freedom. Let the light we kindle go before us, strong in hope, wide in goodwill, inviting the day to come. And now Reverend Clovice has some opening words for us.
Thank you. I was wanting to write something profound about joy for our opening words today. And I thought I should go online and look up some quotes to get started. And then I ran into this quote from Shauna Nyquist's book called Cold Tangerines, Celebrating the Extraordinary Nature of Everyday Life. And I found in this quote everything I wanted to say. So it's good to let joy speak through the exuberance of another connected, kindred soul. And this is what Nyquist wrote. I want a life that sizzles and pops and makes me laugh out loud. And I don't want to get to the end or tomorrow even and realize that my life is a collection of meetings and pop cans and errands and receipts and dirty dishes. I want to eat cold tangerines and sing out loud in the car with the windows open and wear pink shoes and stay up all night laughing and paint my walls the exact color of the sky right now. I want to sleep hard on clean sheets and throw parties and eat ripe tomatoes and read books so good they make me jump up and down, and I want my every day to make God belly laugh, glad that he gave life to somebody who loves the gift. Thank you, Sister Nyquist.
And now our opening hymn this morning is Surprised by Joy, number 410 in the Silver Hymnal. Tom Devine has assembled a new recording featuring the beautiful and soulful voices of the UUCC choir. So please join us in singing Surprised by Joy.
Surprised by joy, no song can tell, no thought can compass. Here we stand to celebrate eternal love, to reach for one another's hand. Beyond all other gifts is this gift alone to mortals given, the love of parents, lover, friend, attunes our hearts to bliss of heaven. Faith, hope, and love here come alive. Life's deepest treasure is made known when in forgiving, giving all, inseparably to roar as one.
And now Tom has a reading for us.
Thanks, Noreen. Today's reading is number 479 in the Silver Hymnal. It's a poem called That Passeth All Understanding, and it's by Denise Levertov from her book Oblique Prayers. In this, the poet is talking about a spiritual experience, perhaps the peace that passeth all understanding. And she's wondering when it began for her. And also she compares it to some other more familiar events that seem to sneak up on us. We don't know exactly when they started, but suddenly there they are. And perhaps she's suggesting they are no less miraculous. So here is her poem. An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. A gratitude had begun to sing in me. Was there some moment dividing song from no song? When does dewfall begin? When does night fold its arms over our hearts to cherish them? When is daybreak? And now Jane will introduce our worship leader for today.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce Reverend Clovice Lewis. The title of his sermon today is Finding Joy. Reverend Clovice is a professional cellist and composer, a former professor of computer music at UC Santa Barbara, a serial entrepreneur, a software designer, aviator, and most recently, an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. His ministry emphasizes breaking down racial, class, and ethnic barriers and preaching the gospel of the madness of human self-extinction. Reverend Clovice is the author of Yearning for Justice and Theological Sightlines, collections of sermons about race, conscience, justice, theology, current events, and human dignity. Available on Amazon as Kindle, paperback, and hardback. His one-act play, On the Fence, is also available on Amazon as a Kindle-only publication. Welcome, Reverend Clovice.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. It is so lovely to be here. As many in my home congregation here in Lake County know, I've tackled such heavy subjects as torture, justice, and the nature of reality, quantum physics, and all sorts of things like that in some of my previous sermons. So when thinking of today's topic, I thought, why not talk about something really challenging like joy? So some of you have heard this sermon, and I offer it today with a few modifications in the hope that it might still delight you, and at the very least, hope to induce in you either joy at hearing it again, like a piece of music that needs to be repeated, or some new insight, like being tickled by a child. Now, here's some definitions of the word. Intense and especially ecstatic or exultant happiness, the expression or manifestation of such feeling, a deep feeling or condition of happiness or contentment, something causing such a feeling, a source of happiness, an outward show of pleasure or delight, rejoicing, the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires, delight. The expression or exhibition of such emotion, gaiety. A state of happiness or felicity, bliss, a source or cause of delight. And here's how some have described joy. Agitated with delight as a waving sea, Arabian Nights. Exhilaration spread through his breast like some pleasurable form of heartburn, Nadine Gordimer. Bliss as though you'd suddenly swallowed a bright piece of that late afternoon sun and it burned in your bosom, sending out little shower of sparks into every particle. Catherine Mansfield. Ecstasy warm and rich as wine. Harvey Swados. Enjoy life like a young porpoise. George Santaniano. Her heart became as light as a bubble. Antonia White. Joy felt it rumbling within him like a subterranean river. Andre Malraux. Joy leaping within me like a trout in a brook. George Garrett. Joys like angel visits, short and bright. John Norris. Much has been written about joy. I like this description by Jerry Rosser on his Psychology of Joy website. He said, joy is a unique state of consciousness that generates a heightened, sustained happiness that is at once subtle, serene, and yet dynamically active. Joy is a unique synthesis of elation of feeling, lucidity of thought, and positive intention. Joy is a special wisdom that creates a clarity of understanding, which can guide our choices in life to create even more joy, deepening our sense of self and bring a dynamic aliveness, meaning, and intelligence to our relationships and creative expression. Usually, a description of the feeling of joy is that it's fleeting or impermanent. The question that commonly arises is, how can we stay? How can we remain in a state of joy? And that question is equally as many times answered as, you can't stay in a state of joy. That answer is always taken on its face. It's not challenged, but accepted as truth. But I'm not so sure about that. I'm not playing semantics here, but I believe people too often confuse ecstasy for joy. Ecstasy is a state of intense pleasure or delight. It's so intense that one is carried away beyond rational thought and self-control, and that doesn't last for very long. You see, I believe you can stay in a joyful state if you make a practice of finding joy. Put it another way, you can live in a general state of happiness punctuated by joyous experiences. And these experiences can be sought out and incorporated into your life. The key is conscious attention to the way that joy operates. Let me say that again. The key is conscious attention to the way that joy operates. Notice that joy is often experienced when it's shared. In Buddhist practice, this is called mudita, meaning happiness in response to another person's happiness, success, or good fortune. And this is a genuine feeling of joy, not one that's forced. To experience more joy in our lives, we can adopt a simple strategy of feeling happy for another's happiness. A Buddhist sutra points out that a single lamp may light hundreds of thousands of lamps without itself being diminished. The Swedish proverb says, shared joy is a double joy. And William Shakespeare, not to be outdone, wrote, joy delights in joy. In an article entitled Appreciating Joy, Marcelo Spinella wrote of this shared quality of joy that appreciative joy is the closest we will get to a free lunch. As the Dalai Lama has said, when we feel happiness in response to another's happiness, our odds of being happy go up by about 6 billion to 1. Of course, appreciating joy is not limited to appreciating the pleasure of others. We can feel pleasure in response to our own joy. We may feel happy about some circumstance and feel pleased about feeling happy the way we would feel happy for someone else. So why not get the most out of it? Feeling joy nourishes us, and it gives us more reserves to deal with difficulties when they come along. Besides, in experiencing our own joy, we in turn radiate that towards others that we interact with, making, quote, a contagious and virtuous cycle. Another way joy operates is that it is often disguised as something else. Watch out for this. Contentment, equanimity, tranquility, a sense of well-being, happiness, enjoyment, altruism, amusement, playfulness, gratification, delight, comfort, harmony, satisfaction, warmth, euphoria, and elation should all be suspected, especially if these emotions persist for a period of time. Joy is contagious. It spreads like wildfire between anyone with which it's shared. And a research study performed by Harvard and MIT researchers documented that the spread of happiness or even sadness is contagious, with spreading patterns similar to infectious diseases like the flu. And they found that being full of joy is good for you and those around you. Researchers conducted multiple studies associated with joy that scientifically prove the physical benefit of being joyful. American psychologists discovered that positive thinkers, for example, live 7.5 years longer than more pessimistic people. A positive attitude towards aging has a more significant effect than physiological measures like blood pressure and cholesterol. And of course, we all heard the studies that conclude that laughter helps overall health. Joy is an aspect of love. You could say they're kissing cousins. It is one of the most profound ways that joy operates and is manifested. Most of us know or can quickly bring to mind the thrill of love in all of its flavors: romantic, erotic, platonic, familial, religious, and agape. We actively seek out the pleasure of those deep connections with others. Psychologist Erich Fromm maintained in his book, The Art of Loving, that love is not merely a feeling, but also an action. In fact, the feeling of love is superficial in comparison to one's commitment to love through a series of loving actions over time. In this sense, Fromm held that love is ultimately not a feeling at all, but rather a commitment to loving actions towards another, oneself, or many others over a sustained duration. So I would say that joy operates similarly to love, that both emotions or feelings, as Fromm says, are more of a commitment to an action that embodies these feelings of love or joy. Or more likely, it is a deliciously sustaining combination of both. Joy is also an aspect of peace, another one of its kissing cousins and another profound way that joy operates. I'm not talking about the peace that is absent from violent conflict or hostility. I'm talking about the peace that Robert Fulghum described when he wrote, "Peace is not something you wish for, it's something you make, something you are, something you do, and something you give away." Here again is a description of the nature of a thing that does not directly define it. Joy is like subatomic particles that cannot be directly observed, but effects of which can be seen in cloud chambers. The words peace and joy are often blended in the Christmas season. They both suffer from the burden of being thought of as unattainable over a long time. But again, the question is, why does that have to be true? We all understand, at least intuitively, that inner peace is the road upon which joy takes joyrides. Find peace and you will find joy, guaranteed all the time. I made that up. That's mine. Joy is like being kissed by God. It opens us up to unexpected vistas, clarity, and connectedness that lie beyond our everyday experience. I love what Catherine Mansfield had to say about joy. As though you'd suddenly swallowed a bright piece of that late afternoon sun and it burned in your bosom, sending out a little shower of sparks into every particle. Amen, Sister Mansfield, for bringing us such a powerful image of how joy operates. Joy, sending out little shower of sparks into every particle, certainly captures the transcendent nature of it. I also love what Shauna Nyquist wrote. I want to eat cold tangerines and sing out loud in the car with the windows open and wear pink shoes and stay up all night laughing and paint my walls the exact color of the sky right now. Wow. These images reinforce my thoughts on joy. I like to think of joy as the subatomic particles of our life experiences. I like to think of joy as, like joy-flavored quarks, charms, leptons, electrons, muons, bosons, and gluons. And I utterly reject the notion that life is supposed to be about suffering and pain. I firmly believe that our purpose in life is to be happy, to hunt relentlessly for those joy jewels. The feeling that God is kissing you should be an indication for us that we are awash in a universe of joy, that joy is the substance of all there is. And I believe that one day physicists who so diligently seek to explain what they now call the consciousness that underlies all existence will someday look up from their calculations and microscopes and say, Eureka! Consciousness is joy. It's the way God dances. So Clovice, you might say, how do I find joy? My answer is that joy can be planned for and even expected. But have you noticed that the actual feeling comes over you spontaneously? Planning for joy doesn't take a lot of work. You can put yourself into situations that invite joy's presence. Purposefully sit down on a rainy day with some hot cocoa and curl up for a few hours with that book you've wanted to read. Play music, or better yet, learn to play an instrument so you can play music. Play your favorite sport. Notice that play figures prominently here. Playing is one of the great attractors of joy. And as for the idea that you can sustain a state of joy, the following are tips on staying in joy over a long time. First of all, you can forgive yourself and others. Few things create a richer, more fertile ground for joy than forgiveness. We all do and say stupid things. We hurt one another, and we're not perfect, and we all need improvement. My Unitarian Universalist bones do not believe in sin, but especially not in the way that it's come to be meant in the conventional sense. Sinning is to miss the mark. In that way, I think we're all sinners. We often miss the mark. It is in our nature to fail on occasion. So learn to forgive yourself and others and join the human race of fellow emotional klutzes. Learn to spread forgiveness liberally upon the cake of life, and it will be sweeter. Another thing to do, this might be controversial, avoid unhappy people. Just remove yourself if you can, and if appropriate, from the presence of people who are negative or who deplete your energy. Surrounding yourself with happy and successful people is one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. And so who says that you must help unhappy people become happy, especially if it's at your own expense? That's their responsibility. So from this day forward, be clear that your responsibility is to be as happy as you can be. And if that means you need to remove yourself from unhappy people to do so, then do that. Besides, sometimes you'll find that your presence often feeds into a codependent dynamic for such a person. Breaking that cycle could be good for them as well. Be open to change. Learn to be flexible and open to the opinions of others. Sometimes fear is what limits our growth. When we embrace fear, or rather when we embrace change, fear has very little room to grow. Andre Gide said, "Man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of shore." You can fight change, you can accept it, or you can embrace it. Encourage and embrace change the way you would hug a bad little boy with loving arms. If you do that, change will soon be your friend and take you to some of the best places you can't imagine. Another thing, be appreciative. Ralph Marston says, be appreciative of the truth, even when it's painful. Be appreciative of each moment, of each circumstance, of each encounter, for everything can add richness to your life when you allow it. Appreciate the gifts in your life, and that includes people, circumstances, possessions, and your health. Appreciate the fact that life itself is the greatest gift. That appreciation, when you truly incorporate it into your daily existence, cannot help but invite joy. My wife Carol and I have been telling each other at least 3 things we're grateful for just before we go to sleep for a little over a year now. I'll tell you, that is a delicious practice which helps to invite joy. Another thing you can do is you can really do this. Discard the illusion that you are in control of anything. Chaos is a fact of life in this universe. It's not to say you can't influence events in your life and that you can't, make an attempt to control some things. Perhaps it's better not to worry about the things you can't control. And some of you have heard my rule number 1. People will do whatever they want to do, whether you want them to or not. I tell you, that rule has personally helped me live a much more joyful life. I got it on the level of my DNA. Believe me, it helps. And the last thing that I would offer is to live in the present. You've heard that a million times from people who quote Eckhart Tolle, who wrote, "Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now." My friend Eric Lieber calls anxiety about the future, futuring, and anxiety about the past, pasting. Frankly, he drives me crazy when he points out to me that I am futuring. I do that a lot. But I do appreciate the reminder. Joy can only be experienced at the moment called now. Understand that, and you will find it. While writing this sermon, I started what I called a joy journal, because I wanted to demonstrate how I found joy simply by looking for it. So I put it on some sheets of paper, and this is what I wrote. Talking with my wife Carol at breakfast on a stormy, rainy morning, the sun suddenly appears. Feeling the graciousness of a tree in our front yard as its branches reach out in all directions. When I talk to my daughter Keely about the baby she's expecting. The way my cat Neo looks at me and reaches his paw to touch me when he stirs from one of his naps. Looking closely at a blade of new grass. Thinking about how running water and indoor toilet must have provided endless joy to people 150 years ago. When my favorite coffee house has a fresh croissant with cream cheese to accompany my quad half-calf cappuccino. When I've taken a walk on a fresh, cool fall afternoon between rainstorms. When my deceased friend Laurie visits me by planting a funny insight into my mind, and she calls those things upgrades to my brain. When one of my 4th graders nailed a complex rhythm I put on the chalkboard, watching my cat Bastet hug Carol on the couch as they curl into each other. Closing my eyes and lowering my head while improvising a solo during a rehearsal until I could smell the rosin and varnish between the neck and the body of my cello. I'm transported beyond time and space. Then I come back to realize that we band members are gods playing music together. So this week, there have been many joys for me, too numerous to record, too sublime to capture, and way too rich to plumb. And I can honestly tell you that I live in a general state of happiness that is punctuated by truly joyful experiences. And those kinds of experiences can be sought out and incorporated into anyone's life. The key, again, is conscious attention to the ways that joy operates. Summon joy when you are fully present in the moment, and I promise it will come to you like a beautiful bird that has been waiting for your call. Namaste. So, the music that you're going to hear next is entitled Keely. I composed it for my daughter Keely one day to express how I feel about her. She's great joy in my life.
Thank you, Clovice, for your inspiring sermon today, and for all of you who, by being here today, share our joy and express your faith in our two communities, the Unitarian Universalist Coastside community and the Unitarian Universalist community of Lake County. In Unitarian Universalism, in becoming a covenanting community, a congregation is asked to describe its relationships with other Unitarian Universalists. For UUCC, there are multiple, and I say none is more cherished than that which we share with our sister congregation gathered here with us today, the UU community of Lake County. Simply put, we helped each other during the pandemic, and from these exchanges, multiple personal friendships have blossomed. By the way, UUCC is entirely dependent on the contributions of its members. Perhaps as a small act of love, as a single step towards hope, as one more quiet whisper for joy, why not choose to donate today? A gift from us to us. And instructions for donations to both congregations are in the order of service. And also there's a link that you can find in the chat. And for both congregations, there are options for writing checks or for giving online. And now Tom has one more reading for us by Denise Levertov.
Thank you, Noreen. So today, this reading is an excerpt from the final section of Denise Levertov's marvelous poem called Matins, which is about her mourning as a mother. Marvelous truth, confront us at every turn. in every guise. Dwell in our crowded hearts, our steaming bathrooms, kitchens full of things to be done, the ordinary streets. Thrust close your smile that we may know you, terrible joy. And now, our closing hymn this morning is There Is More Love Somewhere, which is number 95 in the UU Silver Hymnal. And today it's sung by the UUCC Choir, featuring Linda Grace Frost, Laurel Frischman, Bruce Raffnell, Barbara Correa, and myself. So please rise in body and or spirit and add your voice, or just listen, to this beautiful hymn. There is more love somewhere.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. There is more love somewhere.
That was beautiful. So now we will extinguish our candle flames. And please join us in reading these words by Elizabeth Selle Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now Reverend Clovice has some closing words for us.
No, I just want to say that whenever we do There Is More Joy Somewhere, I am immediately transported back to my times with my good friend Carl Stewart, who I played with in a band called Blue Collar. And we used to play that song, There's More Love. And in my sermon today, when I talked about joy, you know, smelling the rosin of my cello and feeling like a god playing music, that was with my brother Carl, who I love dearly. He's passed on, but I am always joyful whenever I hear that song. So I just want to say that joy is infectious. It is ever present. Joy is the music of life, and we are its notes. Joy is the way that God dances because it's the way that we human beings dance. Joy is love. Love is everything. If you live and breathe, joy is what sustains you, even if you are not aware of it or refuse to acknowledge it. Joy is peace. To be full of joy is to be full of life. Drink. Be refreshed. Be enriched. Leave our gathering today and breathe joy into the spiritual lungs of everyone you meet until we meet again.
Mm.
Namaste.
Thanks to everyone who contributed to this wonderful, enlightening service today. Thank you, Reverend Clovice, for sharing some invaluable techniques on how we can turn inner peace into joy. And we want to acknowledge our joint service production team, co-worship associate Jane Thanks, amazing music from Clovice Lewis and Carol Cole Lewis, and our UUCC music director extraordinaire, Tom Devine, with the UUCC choir, our chalice lighter, Carol Maxwell from UUCLC, and Zoom engineers, Bill Hevelin and Rob Carey. And this will be then edited by Bruce Raffnell and uploaded to UUCC's YouTube channel, along with some other past services featuring Reverend Clovice. So if we could ask maybe just one huge favor today, UUCC's YouTube channel is just 12 short of reaching 100 subscribers. And when we get to 100, we actually get a custom URL, and our channel will be then distributed more widely. So let's, if we can, if you have not yet subscribed to the UUCC YouTube channel, there's going to be a link in the chat, and we would so appreciate if you could do that for us. So a huge thanks once again for all of you for participating in this timely service.
Clovice offers the following questions for conversation in our breakout rooms immediately following the service. Can you think of examples of when joy reverberates for you? Feeling pleasure about your own joy? Do you agree with the notion that you should avoid unhappy people as much as possible to sustain joy in your own life? Can you think of times in your life when you experience the contagious nature of joy? And while you're reflecting on these questions, let's hear a final instrumental by Clovice and Carol, The Oneness of Everything. We will be meeting in breakout rooms after the music, so please don't go away.